3 bone-chilling true best friend horror stories. A nightmare you won't forget at 3 a.m. In the dimly lit corners of the town of Maplewood, shadows whispered secrets, and echoing footsteps sent shivers down spines. The clock struck 3, the witching hour when the veil between reality and horror thinned. Anyone awake found themselves wrapped in a chill that crept under their skin, sparking fears of what lurked just beyond the edge of their vision. Stories of friendship and betrayal twisted like the gnarled branches on the old oak tree at its center, each more unthinkable than the last. Sarah and Jenna were more than best friends. They were sisters of the soul. But when they decided to explore the abandoned Barlow house together, the air thickened with tension. They'd heard tales of flickering lights and ghostly moans that echoed within its crumbling walls. It was said that anyone who entered never came out the same, or at all. As they stood on the threshold, a sudden gust of wind howled through the broken window, rattling their nerves. The heavy door creaked open, revealing the dark maw of the unknown. Are we really doing this? Jenna's voice trembled, echoing her doubts. Sarah squeezed her hand, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The sensations buzzed around them. Dust motes danced in the dim light, and the musty scent of decay hung thick in the air. Just as they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them like a final farewell. They were in. As they ventured deeper into the shadows, they stumbled upon an ancient mirror, cracked and tarnished. Reflections flickered frantic. Desperate faces morphed and shifted, bearing hollow eyes that seemed to reach out, pleading for help. Did you see that? Jenna gasped, her breath quickening, fear knitted into her features. What was real? What was just their imagination? But then, an unsettling sound broke through the distant echo of laughter, light and airy, but laced with malice. The girls froze. It felt like someone or something was watching them. Their backs were against the wall, hearts racing. Could it be a ghost? A trick of the light? Or was there something far more sinister lurking in the dark? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As they turned to leave, the laughter morphed into a shriek, sending them into a frenzy. The mirror flickered to life again, showing their reflections only. They looked different, distorted like a funhouse version of reality. And then came the whisper, soft yet horrifying. You can't escape. Panic surged, and the door shuddered, as if trying to hold back whatever darkness resided within. Were they truly trapped? The pounding in their chests echoed the drums of dread resonating through the old bones of the house. They shared a look, one born from fear and unspoken terror. In that moment, the stakes soared. Shadows danced across the wall, shape-shifting to echo their fears. This was only the beginning, but what awaited them next would forever change the bond of their friendship. Could they emerge from this nightmare together, or would betrayal loom like a ghost ready to snatch one of them away? Time hung thick in the air, an oppressive blanket that wrapped around Sarah and Jenna, clouding their thoughts with dread. Jenna clenched Sarah's hand tighter as they stood paralyzed, both instinctively aware that moving away from that cursed mirror could mean missing the last chance to escape. Maybe it's just our imagination. We could leave. Let us try the door, Jenna whispered, her voice barely above a breath, tinged with desperation. But where was the urge to flee coming from? Deep down, Sarah felt the tug of something darker. A heaviness anchored her feet to the floor in an eerie bond with the old house. Wait, just a second, she replied, her voice quivering amidst the stillness that rushed in to fill the void left by the shriek. Jenna paused, her wide eyes darting around the room as shadows flitted through the edges of her vision. Sarah, we need to go? Like now? Suddenly, a too familiar laughter echoed again, reeling them both back into the nightmare, now layered with an unmistakable cruelty. It felt as if the house itself was alive, a pulsating entity feeding off their fear. Feelings of unease morphed into suffocating panic as the laughter morphed into jagged whispers, taunting, encouraging, crazed. Run, Sarah shouted, breaking whatever spell had bound them. They bolted for the door, but collided with invisible walls pressing in on them. The house had sealed them inside. She could feel her heart racing, a wild drum beating against the confines of her chest as they scrambled back toward the mirror. But the reflections had changed once more. Now, they exhibited not just fright but sinister grins, mocking them with a knowledge they did not share. One reflection stepped forward, its eyes glinting darkly like a predator's. "Join us," the figure taunted, its voice a chilling blend of familiarity and malevolence. It sounded just like Sarah, but wrong, echoing with a hatred she did not recognize. Jenna gasped, stumbling back. "Sarah, that is not you." Panic crackled between them as visions of betrayal swept through Sarah's mind like wildfire. What if this was her fate? What if Jenna would turn against her? "Get away from it!" Jenna shrieked, pulling Sarah back, but it felt as if chains wrapped around her ankles, binding her to the frightful mirror. With each passing moment, the world behind the glass seemed to ooze malice. The faces distorted further, convulsing into grotesque mockeries of their own. "You can't hide." They laughed, a chorus that echoed around and within them. "Why is this happening?" Sarah shouted, desperation clinging to her words. "What do you want from us?" "Trust," came the haunting answer, echoing eerily. Trust in your fears before they could decipher the sinister meaning. A cold hand clutched Sarah's shoulder from behind, squeezing tight. Her breath caught as icy dread flooded her veins. The air shifted, and the laughter returned, this time filling the room with a palpable darkness. Jenna spun around, only to find nothing except the creeping shadows swirling in the corners. "Sarah," Jenna breathed, panic spilling from her eyes. "What if it isn't just the house? What if we brought this with us?" A rumble shook the room, rattling their confidence, and with it came clarity. Maybe the fear didn't just stem from the house. Maybe it was breeding within them. The true test of their friendship awaited, layered in trust and fear. Could they confront what lay intertwined in their bond, or would the darkness tear them apart, one betrayal at a time? Just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, the laughter crescendoed into a blood-curdling scream, leaving them reeling, terrified of the unknown still lurking in the dark corners. Was the betrayal deep-rooted within them? Or was the house insidiously orchestrating their fears against each other, twisting friendship into a weapon? A frigid wind howled through the cracked windows, causing the shadows to dance like tortured souls across the room. Jenna's breath quickened, visible puffs of fear mingling with the heavy air. She gripped Sarah's arm tighter, as if hoping to anchor them both in a reality that was slipping away. "Sarah, we can't trust it. Whatever is happening, it's using us against each other." Jenna's voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes as she battled with both the horror of their situation and the fear of losing her best friend in that moment. The mirror vibrated violently. The glass warped, rippling like water, and then the figure that had threatened to pull them into its depths began to emerge. It was a grotesque version of Sarah, distorted and nightmarish, a smile carved into its face that spoke of evil joy. "Isn't it beautiful?" The figure chuckled, its voice a low, mocking timbre. "Such a lovely friendship ready to unravel." "Stop it," Sarah cried, stepping back, feeling Jenna's nails dig into her arm. "You're not me." "Oh, but I am," the twisted reflection spoke slowly, each word dripping with malice. "I am what you hide, the truth you refuse to face. Your fear doesn't stem from the house. It comes from within you. Join us, embrace it." Jenna shook her head in disbelief. "Fight it, Sarah. It wants us to give in." But as she spoke, doubt crept in. Maybe this reflection was right. Could she even trust Sarah? Wasn't there a part of her that feared losing this connection, losing each other? The laughter surrounded them like a storm, building in volume until it was a cacophony that threatened to shatter their minds. "Do you really think anyone can save you? You're already lost." With a sudden jolt, Sarah felt a rush of energy surge through her, an ancient anger hidden beneath layers of fear. She took a shaky breath, wrestling with the impulse to either run or confront her darker self. "No, you don't have power over us." In an instant, the room darkened even more. The lights flickered and dimmed, casting everything into a claustrophobic nightmare. Shadows slithered along the walls, morphing into memories dark, twisted recollections of moments that thrummed with hidden resentment, jealousy, and distrust. Memories that Jenna, too, could sense. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah shouted, defiant now, trying to pierce through that chilling connection to the mirror. "We're stronger together than you'll ever be." Stronger together? The twisted reflection's grin widened, revealing teeth that seemed oddly sharp. What if your unspoken fears are more powerful than love? What if stop? Jenna stepped forward, suddenly shifting the focus onto herself. "Whatever you are, you don't know our bond. You'll never understand it." The reflections hesitated, their laughter momentarily crushed under the weight of Jenna's words. But then the figures in the mirror began to shake with a malevolent energy, erupting in laughter that echoed their deepest insecurities. Huh. Misunderstandings, lies, they always come crawling back. Trust can break. All it takes is one seed of doubt. No. The word burst from Sarah like a scream against the invisible bonds that held her. "We refuse to break." As if reacting to her defiance, the glass shattered, scattering shards across the floor like frozen raindrops. The room twisted as the darkness receded, leaving them breathless and trembling, their bond hanging by the finest thread. Then, piercing the silence, a voice broke through, soft yet undeniable. "Can trust survive when truth is buried alive?" In that moment, the world shuddered. Outside the house, the wind howled more ferociously than before, as shadows stirred and layered the doubts that lurked beyond their fragile sanctuary. What secrets had Sarah and Jenna hidden even from themselves? With hearts racing and minds in turmoil, they braced for whatever twisted truth the darkness had yet to unveil. Were they strong enough to face it, this time together? Or would the cracks in their trust shatter everything they fought to maintain? The glass shards crunched beneath Jenna's shoe as she and Sarah staggered backward, hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. Dim light flickered from the remaining bulbs, illuminating their faces, which were marred with fear and uncertainty. The mirror, once a portal to darkness, was now in ruins, yet the echoes of that haunting laughter lingered, wrapping around them like a suffocating fog. "Did we win?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she scanned the room, searching for any signs of their tormentor. But shadows still lurked in the corners, watching. Each flicker sent fresh waves of dread through her core. "I don't know." Jenna's own voice wavered, filled with both relief and insecurity. It didn't feel like victory. A sudden draft filled the room, chilling them both to the bone and drawing their attention to the barely visible door at the far end. It seemed to breathe, a dark void eager to take them in. Jenna felt a terrible pull toward it, as if the house itself beckoned them closer, whispering secrets long buried in its walls. "Maybe it's gone," Sarah ventured, stepping closer to the door. "Maybe we can leave this place and never look back." But Jenna hesitated, her gut twisting alarmingly. "What if it's waiting for us to let our guard down? What if the worst is yet to come? Then we face it together," Sarah insisted, her tone more assertive, channeling the energy they had conjured earlier. "We've come this far. I believe we can do this." The door creaked ominously as Sarah reached for the handle. At her touch, a chill swept through the air, making the hairs on Jenna's neck stand on end. A feeling of dread clawed at Jenna's heart, dangerous and familiar. Wait, what if opening that door is what it wants? Before Sarah could respond, a loud crash echoed from the other side, followed by an eerie silence that pressed heavily against them. The darkness seemed to pulse, vibrating with unseen energy. It was as if the house itself was alive, aware of their fear and feeding off it. Jenna felt her heartbeat speed up. Dread twisted her stomach. "We should just go. Now." Her voice rose above the heavy silence, panic spilling over the edges of her resolve. But Sarah stood firm, defiance hardening her features. "Running 1T help us. I 1T let fear win." With a swift motion, she twisted the door handle, flinging it open. A blinding white light surged from the threshold, spilling into the room like a tidal wave. Jenna squinted against the brilliance, instinctively reaching for Sarah, but the light enveloped them both. She felt a force pulling them forward, an otherworldly grip seizing their bodies and dragging them through the doorway. They yelled, trapped in a moment that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Then the light faded, and they tumbled into a sprawling expanse that defied logic, a world flipped upside down. The air crackled with static energy, charged with unseen forces, and Jenna's heart raced as her surroundings morphed in disorienting kaleidoscopes of color and shadow. "Where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled as she regained her footing. They were no longer in the film of reality, but standing at the edge of a vast, twisted forest, each tree warped and gnarled like a skeletal hand reaching for the sky. "I don't think we're home anymore," Jenna murmured, a cold sweat breaking over her brow. Unease crept into her thoughts, and with every heartbeat, she felt the truth of their nightmares closing in. Suddenly, laughter erupted from the trees, mocking and cruel. Figures moved between the shadows, indistinct and lurking. The air thickened with dread, each breath punctuated by pulsating fear. "Are you ready to face the truth?" A voice boomed from the shadows, dark and alluring. "Your bond isn't strong enough to survive here, and you know it." With eyes wide, Jenna turned to Sarah, vulnerability spilling into her expression. "What if we can't make it through this?" Before Sarah could answer, a grotesque echo of their past dreams swirled above them, flooding their minds with memories, fears they never wanted to face. As the shadows slithered closer, illuminating their deepest insecurities, Jenna's thoughts raced. Could they truly trust each other amidst the darkness? Or would the very foundation of their friendship collapse under the weight of their buried truths? Just as the figures lunged toward them, a terrifying realization settled in Jenna's chest. The true horror wasn't the reflection in the shattered mirror or the shadows circling them, but the uncertainty of what they harbored inside. With hearts pounding, they stood locked together, ready or not to confront the reality that might tear them apart. What would emerge from this darkness? Did they have the strength to face the truth buried alive with their fears? The laughter echoed through the twisted trees, vibrating with an intensity that rattled Jenna's bones. For a moment, time felt suspended, the chaos of their surroundings muted as they faced the shadows creeping closer. Each faint whisper of movement merged into a chorus, a haunting serenade that seemed to mock their every resolve. "Stay close," Jenna reminded Sarah, her voice shaky but determined. With trembling breaths, they stepped farther into the forest, plunging into darkness with every hesitant stride. The air felt thick and oily, wrapping around them like an unwelcome embrace, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something far more rancid like decay. "Look," Sarah pointed to the ground. Strange, glowing symbols etched into the dirt pulsed with a dim light, almost like a heartbeat. As they stepped closer, the symbols flickered. For a brief second, they illuminated a figure in the trees, a fleeting glimpse of a hollow-eyed visage staring back. A gasp slipped from Jenna's lips. "Did you see that?" Jenna's voice was barely a whisper, each word laden with fear. "Yeah, we have to keep moving," Sarah urged, her gaze darting to the darkening path ahead. "We can't let it trap us." But as they trudged deeper, the shadows surrounding them morphed. Each gnarled branch and warped trunk seemed to twist into grotesque forms, leering and writhing. Their voices rose, swelling with an unintelligible cacophony that burrowed into their heads. Then a horrible realization crashed over them. Both the shadows were speaking their names. "Jenna, Sarah." A chill swept through Jenna, cold and jagged, shattering the thin veneer of their adrenaline-fueled bravery. "They know us. They know everything. Focus." Sarah's voice pierced through the noise. "Whatever we're feeling, whatever doubts, we have to push through." Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them, snaking tendrils of dark mist swirling around their ankles, tugging insistently. Jenna felt her breath quicken, panic creeping in like a thief in the night. They were sinking, their feet caught in a web of darkness. But the pull wasn't physical, this was something deeper. "Jenna, don't!" Sarah shouted, her eyes wide with a desperate urgency. "They want the fear. Remember what we did back at the house." With a surge of determination, Jenna summoned every ounce of their previous strength, reaching out for Sarah. "Together. We fight it together." They gripped each other's hands tight, their skin nearly blending into one, a fragile but strong bond against the encroaching darkness. Jenna closed her eyes, allowing memories of laughter and joy to flood her mind, moments that defined their friendship and built a fortress against the shadows. But the laughter grew louder, more intense, clawing at their sanity. "You're weak. You can't escape." Stubbornly, Jenna shouted back, "We're stronger than you think." Each word felt like a lifeline, pulling them out from the depths of uncertainty. In that moment of defiance, the mist recoiled, the shadows momentarily retreating, like a tide pulled back from the shore. But a pulse of fury surged, igniting the darkness into a raging tempest. Jenna's heart raced as tendrils of black mist lashed in retaliation, striking at them with a fury that sent bone-deep chills racing down her spine. "No!" Sarah screamed, clutching Jenna's hand even tighter as they stumbled back. Then, just as suddenly, the shadows formed into monstrous faces twisted, hauntingly familiar, representing everything they feared, every secret they buried. Jenna gasped, staring wide-eyed at the horrific reflections of themselves, raw and exposed. "We have to remember who we are, Sarah. No, we are not this. I won't let you win." Sarah's voice held steadfast as the shadows lunged. "You don't define us." As the darkness roared in anger, Jenna felt the ground shake beneath them. The forest began to roar, and the tree branches clawed at the sky, as if battling against the remnants of their hope. And just then, a bright flash burst from where their hands remained clasped, like a beacon refusing to fade. With one final push of will, Jenna shouted, "We can't be afraid of the truth, whatever it is." But before she could comprehend the rising light, the shadows shrieked, slicing through the blinding brightness like knives. Then everything imploded, light and dark colliding in a violent swirl, leaving Jenna and Sarah suspended in a void where sound vanished. What would come next? In that moment of silence, something shifted behind them, and they both turned to see a glimmering door, enticing yet familiar. Was it salvation or another deception? As Jenna and Sarah stood on the precipice of a choice that could change everything, a primal fear knotted in Jenna's gut. What if stepping through didn't bring freedom, but a deeper illusion? The door hovered before them, a shimmering outline against the oppressive void. As Jenna squinted, her heart thundered wildly in her chest, drowning out the echoes of the shadows that still lingered like a bad dream. "Sarah, what do we do?" she breathed, fear tightening around her throat. "Maybe it's a way out," Sarah said, though her tone trembled as she studied the door. Its surface rippled, drawing them in, whispering promises of safety and clarity. But deep inside, Jenna felt a warning pulsing like a drumbeat. "Or it could lead us into more darkness," she countered, glancing behind them. The swirling cacophony of shadowy figures loomed at the edges of their porthole, hungry for their fear, desperate for their despair. But the promise of escape kept pulling at them, seductive tendrils of hope. "We could face whatever's on the other side together," Sarah said, her eyes reflecting both determination and dread. It was clear she was gripping onto the glimmer much like they gripped onto each other. "Together," Jenna echoed, but doubt bubbled in her gut. What did together really mean if the door couldn't be trusted? Taking a deep breath, Jenna stepped forward, barely brushing the edge of the door. A warmth flooded over her, almost like the sunlight they used to chase as kids. "Let us just see what happens." Sarah nodded, apprehension painted across her face. "All right, on three." They counted together, voices trembling in tandem. 1, 2, 3. With a shaky exhale, they both lunged towards the door. As they passed through, colors exploded around them like fireworks, overwhelming their senses. For a brief moment, they felt completely weightless, nothing more than thoughts floating amidst vibrant hues. Then, stark reality crashed back down, and they landed hard on a familiar wooden floor. Dazed, Jenna pushed herself to sit up, blinking away the brightness. The room was untouched, the air thick with the scent of forgotten memories. It was the living room of Jenna's childhood home. "Jenna," Sarah whispered, her voice barely discernible as she looked around, wide-eyed. "We're back, but how?" The walls were draped in family portraits, the ticking clock on the mantelpiece echoing like a lingering heartbeat. Everything felt normal, but an undercurrent of something off lingered. The warmth felt forced, the laughter of long-forgotten voices resonating in the corners, just out of sight. "Jenna?" A voice called, and they both froze. It was her mother, standing at the kitchen entrance, an apron tied around her waist. "Why aren't you two in bed?" The soft glow of home illuminated the shadows lurking in Jenna's mind, begging for her attention. "Mom," she whispered, unsure if she was dreaming. "Is this real?" But her mother only smiled, a serene expression blooming across her face. Yet Jenna sensed it was a mask woven with intent. A hushed tone followed her question. Aren't you tired, sweetheart? You shouldn't be out so late, Mom. Something's wrong. Jenna cried, rising to her feet. But as she turned towards Sarah, the room dimmed around them. Shadows threaded through the cracks in the walls, recycling the laughter into mocking jeers that felt like blades. Let us go. Sarah grabbed her hand, but the shadows closed in, thick and suffocating. They were being pulled apart again. Back to the door, Jenna shouted, racing toward the way they'd come in. But the entrance shimmered like a mirage, its edges flaring with flames that hissed like snakes. It was no longer an escape, it was a punishment. Desperation clawed at Jenna. Hold on, she yelled, trying to keep the fear at bay. We can't lose each other here. Yet the shadows grew darker, curling around their ankles, a tug-of-war between memories and nightmares unfurling in the blink of an eye. Jenna, keep running. Just as they thought all hope was lost, the whispers sharpened. You can't escape the truth. And in that instant, Jenna knew. What they faced wasn't merely shadows, it was the reflection of everything they had tried to bury. Sarah, Jenna cried, pulling her friend closer. We have to face them. Not run, they turned to face the darkness, prepared to fight against the emotions that held them captive. But even as they stood together, a flicker of hope sparked between them. The shadows began to morph into chilling reminders of their worst fears. The scene solidified into visions they thought forgotten, painful secrets laced with memories of betrayal. As Jenna's knees buckled beneath the weight of it all, she realized the truth. They were not just confronting shadows. They were about to uncover the very essence of their bond. But what if unraveling that bond revealed something they both wished could stay hidden? What if knowing the truth hurts more than we imagined? Jenna pondered, dread tangling with their shared fears, and in that tension-filled moment, a crack split the reality around them, signifying that whatever they faced next would change them forever. Was the next step into freedom or a deeper nightmare? Jenna. Sarah's voice sliced through the heavy atmosphere as the shadows twisted wildly around them. Jenna felt her heart racing, pounding with a primal urgency. The darkness felt alive, crawling against her skin, whispering forgotten fears directly into her ear. The crack in reality widened, and with it, a blinding light spilled forth, illuminating their path with an eerie glow. Jenna squinted, the brightness burning against her retinas, pushing back against the suffocating shadows. We need to go, she shouted, legs trembling beneath her. But then there came a voice, hauntingly familiar and dripping with a heartbreaking bitterness. You really think you can run from this? It was Jenna's mother again, her beautiful face now twisted into a grotesque mask of disappointment. You've buried the truth long enough, sweetheart. Jenna's chest tightened, a painful lump forming in her throat. It felt like betrayal wrapped in a smile. Mom, please, you're not real. You can't be, she stammered, glancing at Sarah, who looked just as lost as she felt. Real or not, you need to face what you've done. Jenna, the voice cooed, dripping with venomous sweetness. You've always been so good at hiding. From me, from Sarah, from yourself. Tendrils of shadows twisted tighter around their legs, feeding off the fear radiating from both girls. The walls pulsed, the photographs morphing into nightmarish versions of reality. Jenna's past mistakes, her moments of weakness, betrayal. Each image sliced through her hope like a dagger. No, Sarah cried, yanking Jenna away from the dark edge they teetered on. We can't let it take us. We need to be stronger. Stronger? The shadowy figures erupted into shrieks of laughter, a cacophony that echoed relentlessly. What if strength is what led you here? With determination igniting within her, Jenna turned back to face the nightmare. I did what I had to do. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I thought I was protecting you, Mom. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her words had struck a nerve. The laughter diminished, replaced by a stillness that filled the room, pressing down on Jenna like the weight of the world. The flickering light shimmered, creating vivid images from her past. Each moment became a tangible ghost, revealing the truth behind her choices. See, you're not alone in this, whispered the fragmented images. Those you love will always feel the effects of your choices. As she wrestled with this new onslaught, Jenna felt a surprising wave of clarity rise. No, I'm not surrendering to guilt, she screamed, and in that moment, she reached for Sarah's hand, grasping it firmly. We can face this together. Their combined strength created a light that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. For a heartbeat, the shadows hesitated, flickering uncertainly. Hope filled Jenna's veins like wildfire. The darkness wasn't invincible. It folded under a renewed insistence to be heard. But even as they pressed forward, whispers slithered through the air, taunting. What if the truth you face shatters everything? The darkness stretched, readying itself for a final strike. What if you find out your bond was built on lies? No, Jenna shouted, her voice resounding with vigor. We won't lose our truth to fear. We'll choose our own path. Just then, the shadows lunged, screaming in fury as they began to weave a new reality around the girls. Jenna and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath them, a new force pulling at their resolve. In that instant, though, Jenna knew the darkness wasn't only a foe, it was a vessel for revelation. Yet as they tried to fight the nightmarish growth surrounding them, a chill ran down Jenna's spine. What if this journey into their fears unearthed something they couldn't stand to know? As the fabric of their moment began to unravel, the last thing she heard was a murmur. The truth lies deeper than either of you can comprehend. And with that ominous word, the floor beneath them cracked open, and they tumbled into a void shimmering with possibilities and despair alike. What awaited them on the other side? Only the shadows held the answer. They fell through the void, a rush of light and shadow swirling around them like a chaotic storm. Jenna could feel her stomach drop, a sinking feeling followed by a strange sensation of weightlessness. The light began to flicker, revealing glimpses of a new, distorted reality. As they landed, they found themselves in a dim, twisted version of their childhood neighborhood. Streets that were once familiar were now a labyrinth of darkness, twisted trees with gnarled branches creeping overhead like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with a tangible dread. Each breath Jenna took weighed down by an unshakable fear. Where are we? Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a tremor. I don't know, Jenna replied, her heart thudding loudly in her ears. But it doesn't feel right. Dread settled in the pit of her stomach, and they started to walk, each step echoing in the eerie silence. The quiet was stifling, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, darting in and out of sight, teasing but never fully revealing themselves. What if we're stuck here forever? Sarah's eyes were wide with panic as it dawned on them this place held their darkest fears. Jenna fought the rising wave of despair. We just need to find the source of this, whatever it is. If we can face it, maybe we can escape. They turned a corner, and in the distance, a flickering light caught their attention. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing them closer. As they approached, the light illuminated a figure standing in the center of a small clearing. It was her mother, the same familiar face twisted with an expression that mirrored the pain Jenna felt inside. Mom, Jenna called, hope peeking through her fear. Is it really you? The figure smiled, but it was the kind of smile that sent chills down Jenna's spine. You've come so far, my sweet Jenna. But the truth will be harsher than you can imagine. Stop, Sarah interjected, stepping forward. Leave her alone. The mother's form shimmered, and then faded into shadow, replaced by ghostly fragments of Jenna's past, her worst memories. Fights with friends, broken promises, and moments she wished she could forget clawed at her resolve, pulling at her heart. What is this? Jenna gasped, clutching her head as memories bathed the clearing in an unsettling glow. Why are you showing me this? Isn't it obvious? The voice echoed around them, infused with the darkness of the void. You cannot hide from your past, Jenna. Each regret, each lie the shadows thickened, taking on a life of their own, swirling around Sarah and Jenna. They will consume you. A pulse of anger surged through Jenna. No, I won't let this define me. She turned to Sarah, grounding herself in their bond. Whatever is happening, we can face it together. But the shadowy figures increased around them, looming larger. They weren't just shadows. They were fragments of her insecurities and their shared past fury and betrayal mixed into a tempest that threatened to engulf them. Are you willing to uncover the truth? The darkness hissed, the air crackling with tension. Are you ready to lose everything you thought was real? Jenna hesitated, her chest tight as she remembered the shadows of doubt, betrayal, and pain. It felt as if the ground below them pulsed with treachery, threatening to swallow them whole. No, Sarah cried, grabbing hold of Jenna's hand. We want to be dragged down. We'll rise above it. But as the shadows drew nearer, Jenna began to realize that not all shadows would retreat under the light. What lay ahead was unknown, a maze woven with despair. In that moment of trepidation, a chilling whisper wrapped around their minds. What if the truth is worse than your fears? What if the ties that bind you are also chains? And with those daunting questions hanging heavy in the air, a rift opened before them, an unfamiliar glow beckoning. Jenna and Sarah stood at the edge, hearts pounding as the darkness shimmered menacingly around them. What awaited them on the other side? They took a deep breath, trying to prepare for the truth they both secretly feared. The choice to step forward loomed ahead. Would they dare to confront their deepest secrets? As the rift pulsed with a strange, inviting light, Jenna felt a twinge of hope mixed with the creeping dread. Could stepping forward mean finding answers, or would it pull them deeper into chaos? Together, Sarah whispered, squeezing Jenna's hand tighter, her voice steady despite the tremors in her frame. With a shared glance that spoke volumes, they stepped into the glowing abyss. The world shifted once more. They landed softly, with no hint of the chaotic fall that preceded their arrival. A sharp contrast hit them. The air was clean, cool, but felt unnaturally still. Ahead was a stark landscape, revealing a gray, endless plain. Dark, fragmented shapes loomed off in the distance, frozen like forgotten relics of their past. Jenna inhaled deeply. The new air seemed almost alive, humming with strange energy. Her pulse thrummed in her ears as they whispered forward, the shadows of their memories creeping behind them like a stalking predator. "Do you feel that?" Sarah asked, voice trembling. "It feels wrong." Jenna nodded, the pit in her stomach gnawing at her with every step they took toward the foreboding shapes. Each fragment resembled a pivotal moment, positions of their lives that shaped them. The first block turned out to be an old playground, now rusted and crumbling. The familiar swings creaked gently, swaying without a breeze that it started to rain. Tiny droplets splattered the ground, and Jenna felt a chill run down her spine as she stared at a lone swing, still swinging on its own. She stepped closer. "Look," Jenna said, pointing. "That's where we built that fort." But as she spoke, the fort melted into a pile of rotting wood. The vision turned sour, memories morphing into something grotesque. The laughter once felt joyful and carefree now echoed with mockery, tainting every cherished moment that a voice like thunder roared from the shadows behind them. "Your happiness a mere illusion. Who is there?" Sarah shouted, fear lighting her eyes. Jenna whipped around, expecting to see their tormentor, but only shadows gathered like a thick mist. This darkness was alive and it hungered. Then the laughter came. Hollow, chilling giggles crept into their ears, twisting the familiarity of childhood into something sinister. "Face it." The shadows hissed in unison, their tone layered with malice. "You ran from your truth. You denied your essence. You thought you could escape?" Jenna felt her heart pounding harder than ever, faster, desperate. "We're not afraid of you," she yelled back, trying to instill courage within her quaking form. "We can handle the truth." But as she spoke, warped images began to swirl in the air. She saw her mom's face again, just as distorted, but this time filled with sadness that made Jenna's heart ache. "Jenna, you need to see what you fear most," the figure whispered, eyes despairing. "You are trapped by your own making." "No." Jenna screamed, stepping back, shaking her head fiercely. "I want to listen." As Jenna struggled within herself, the world around them began to ripple like disturbed water. It was suffocating. The shadows pushed in closer, thickening with each shaky breath. Broken dreams and lost friendships slithered through the air like tendrils. "Let go, let us embrace you," the shadows sang, their voices dimming any reason left within her. Amidst the chaos, Sarah's voice broke through, fierce and determined. "Jenna, remember who you are? We are not just our fears, they do not control us." Those words ignited something in Jenna. With a burst of will, she stepped forward, pushing against the darkness with all her strength. "I will not be defined by you." The shadows recoiled slightly, hesitating. The flicker of hope in Jenna sparked anew, illuminating the recesses of her mind. "Together," Sarah echoed, stepping alongside her. But as they forged their connection, the shadows shrieked. A blinding flash erupted from between them, disconnecting their silhouettes from the horrors swirling around them. Prepare to find out what lies beneath. The whispers screamed into the void as the landscape twisted, spinning into chaos. Jenna and Sarah held on to each other, hearts racing. Uncertainty loomed ahead like a looming thundercloud, heavy with impending storms. And with that terrifying thought hanging in the air, the ground beneath them began to crack, opening into the unknown depths below. What would they confront next? Would they be ready to face truths buried so deep that even the darkness had feared to unearth them? The ground split wide open, and with a sudden lurch, Jenna and Sarah were pulled into a swirling vortex of color and chaos. As they tumbled through the air, whispers writhed around them like the echoes of a million secrets. Time lost meaning as they plummeted into darkness, each heartbeat a frantic drum against the intensity of the void. When they finally landed, the world reassembled around them. They found themselves in an eerie, vast chamber bathed in an ethereal light. Walls of mirrored glass surrounded them, reflecting 1,000 versions of themselves, shimmering, vibrant, but also twisted with fears they had kept buried. Each reflection spoke to Jenna and Sarah, revealing fragments of their past moments of anger, jealousy, betrayal, and pain. Jenna felt her breath hitch. "This is it," she whispered, floating towards one of the reflections. In it, she saw her younger self, alone on the playground, tears streaming down her cheeks after a fateful argument with a childhood friend. Pain stabbed through her heart. "I thought I moved past this, Jenna." Sarah's voice pulled her back. "Focus on us. Those moments don't define us." She reached out, grounding Jenna with her presence. But before Jenna could respond, the room shook, and the laughter began again, a cacophony of torment that filled the chamber. "You think you can escape the truth you fear? You are nothing but shadows tied to regrets." "Shut up," Jenna shouted back, clenching her fists. "No, I refuse to be defined by this darkness. I have Sarah. We can fight back." The laughter faltered, a flicker of uncertainty resting in the air. Jenna turned back to Sarah. "We need to confront our truths. They can hurt, but only if we allow them to control us." "Together," Sarah echoed, determination shining in her eyes. As they clasped hands, the brightness around them intensified, drowning the darkness in warmth and light. The mirrors dimmed, their reflections no longer mocking but instead filling with the glow of their forward momentum. But that warmth did not last. The shadows roared angrily, morphing into monstrous figures of fear. "Do you really think you can defy us? You don't even know what you're capable of." Jenna pressed her lips together, fighting the urge to falter. "What if we do?" She countered defiantly. "We are not just scared girls. We are real. We've faced nightmares together. The truth is stronger than fear." The shadows recoiled, as if they had just been splashed with cold water. The intertwining shadows and whispers began to dull, giving way to the illuminating force Jenna and Sarah projected. The monsters merged back into the walls of the chamber, retreating as light spilled forth from the mirrors, bathing Jenna and Sarah in its embrace. "We can't let ourselves spiral into darkness again," Jenna urged, feeling courage bloom like spring after a brutal winter. "I won't let you face this alone." Sarah's words were fierce, unyielding. "Whatever the truth is, we'll face it together." In that moment, with their hearts drumming in sync and their spirits aligned, they stepped forward into the heart of the light. The wall of mirrors shattered, and Jenna felt an overwhelming release, as if the weight of their fears had been taken off her shoulders. Suddenly, they stood back in the clear light of reality, or so it seemed. They were back in the woods, the Barlow house looming in the distance, an ordinary night surrounding them. But they knew better now. Shadows lingered there, remnants of their past mistakes lingering like mist, yet now dimmed by their shared resolve. "Did we finally win?" Jenna murmured, looking into Sarah's eyes. A grin crept onto Sarah's face. It was soft, real, yet tempered with the weight of what they had faced. "I think we did. But conquering fear doesn't just happen once. It's a journey." Jenna nodded, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "The bond we built has to be nurtured. We can't let it fade." "Absolutely," Sarah agreed, her contagious passion lighting up Jenna's heart. Together they turned away from the Barlow house, their hands clasped tightly, stepping forward into a new dawn, a future they chosen to embrace. The air was crisp, filled with hope and whispers of strength. They had emerged whole, their friendship marked by eternal symbols of trust and honesty, ready for whatever awaited beyond the horizon, a commitment renewed to battle the darkness together. But before they could revel in their victory entirely, Jenna felt a tug, a reminder of the shadows they left behind. "We need to go back," she said, breathless. "Tell others what happened. They should know. Let us share our truth," Sarah interjected fiercely, her heart echoing Jenna's determination. As they stepped away from the looming house, they understood this grave decision was not merely about sharing nightmares, but helping those they loved to confront their own. With one last look at the Barlow house, they turned their backs to the past, ready to embrace the future. And as they began their walk back, Jenna felt excited and terrified knowing what they would face next, but confident in themselves and the strength of their bond. The world held tension, yes, but intertwined with new resilience. Jenna couldn't help but smile, and Sarah laughed, the sound rich and warm against the cool night's air. They had survived this journey, and the path ahead held lessons to teach them, stories to tell, and fears they would continue to face together. Now, reflect on this journey. Remember how love mirrors strength and resilience. If you enjoyed this wild ride, the actual journey to courage is just beginning. So listen closely. You need to subscribe now. Don't let this moment pass you by. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community thriving. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this powerful ending. Share what you felt. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion and face their own shadows. Join us again. Together we can face the darkness.